People.
Here we go. Hello, everyone. All right. We want to welcome you to Wisdom for the Journey in our live stream on YouTube. And we already got some people on the chat. Of course, Christina Jones. She's our chat expert. She's over there.
Hello, Christina.
Katie. Yay. Everybody wave. Woo. Yay. We're so excited you guys are joining us today. And we have a fun day planned. I'm going to kind of go over a couple things we're going to do today for those of you type A's who like to know the plan. So we're going to let everybody get on the chat and say hi. And then we're going to have giveaways throughout the day. We're going to have a panel, my awesome panel right here, Miss Erin Stones and Nicole Blaska and Ashley Brush. I'm not sure what area they are on your screen. But they're going to share on marriage. And so we're going to spend a couple minutes this afternoon talking about marriage. And we're so glad you joined us. I know there's tons of things you're doing right now. Actually, maybe not as many as a normal summer, but I guess you're not going to be at the public pool swimming or at Six Flags, but you could be on a walk or taking a nap. So we appreciate you coming and joining us. And so, yes, we have awesome Julia Ekpo is behind the scenes admitting this. And so we want to say hi to Julia. She's going to be putting stuff on the banner for us. So yeah, if you haven't subscribed to our Antioch Kids YouTube page or Instagram or Facebook, we'd love for you to join. We kind of give announcements through that, some encouragements. And so we'd love for you to join that as well. So just to cast vision for Wisdom for the Journey was started several years ago. And the purpose of it was just to connect older moms with younger moms under the umbrella of mothering. And so we all have different ages of kids, stages of kids. And it's just so helpful to have someone that's the season ahead of you. I mean, I remember when I was a young mom, there were several moms that I would just watch and look at. And it's just so helpful to know that we're not in this by ourselves. And so that's one of the purposes of this. And so we just love it that we usually gather the first Tuesday of the month live, and we've been going through the summer on YouTube. We've had great people. We have great numbers of people watching. We've actually grown like 4 times, and so we just enjoyed you guys joining us. And so I just want to give a big shout out to that. And hopefully, when we're back in person, we'd love for you to join us. But before we go any further, it is a birthday of sweet Ashley Brush today. Yay! Talk about little. I didn't realize her birthday was till this morning, and she chose to come and spend time with you guys in the midst of her birthday. So, shout out to Ashley.
Thanks, guys.
Ashley, are you 25? Are you so excited that
you got it? 25. I'm rocking it still. Yeah.
Yes. So before we get started on our panel, and then we're going to have our first giveaway in just a minute, I just wanted to give a quick encouragement about marriage of why we're doing this. So we all know that obviously since March, things have been crazy in our culture. COVID has made us be at home more. Look at all the happy birthday messages for Ashley. Ashley. And so it can sometimes put strains on our marriage and in ways that we didn't expect. Things that we thought we dealt with maybe kind of creep back up, and you're like, oh, I thought we already dealt with that. Or things that you didn't want to deal with that you kind of swept under the carpet are coming back. And so we just feel like it's very important that the marriage is kept high priority, especially in this season where there's just so much pressure on so many jobs are different. People are losing their jobs, changing their jobs. Husbands are working at home. Maybe they've never been at home before. They're helping co-parent in ways they've never done before. There may be conflict on how that's going. It's hard to get a babysitter, go on a date. I mean, the list goes on and on. And if we are not proactive with our marriages, we will start seeing it manifest in our families. And something I learned early on as a mom, we did a parenting class and they had this thing called couch time. And I just want to give a plug in for it because it's been really helpful, especially when my kids were younger. And the idea is that the kids' security is so much secure when they know their parents love each other and they're getting along. And sometimes we can think, oh, we're not fighting in front of our kids, but affection and actually them seeing you talk face to face literally causes them to have confidence. The kids who weren't sleeping through the night started sleeping through the night, research based. When parents, the first time they see each other at the end of the day, of course, right now it's a little different because of COVID, but you can set this up to where your kids are seeing you choose each other. It's like the dad or the mom comes home from work and the first 5 minutes is, hey, hi kids, I'm going to connect with your mom. Or I'm going to connect with your dad. And they call it couch time because you sit on the couch and you just connect face to face. And so my encouragement in this season is that you are connecting one-on-one in front of your kids. I think it's really, really important. And I think we underestimate the power of them knowing my parents love each other. Mm-hmm. They're secure. They are connecting, and it sets a model for one day for their marriages, that how important it is that we're setting aside time. You should never feel guilty about going and spending time on a date night. You should, that is like, my parents went on a date night every Friday night, and they have a great marriage. And they never felt guilty about it. If you knew my mom, which none of you did, she was like, bye, every Friday night. I mean, we had a babysitter every Friday night. And I think that what happened, that my parents had an amazing marriage, and it showed us they valued marriage. And so wherever you are on this, I know dating has been hard, but it is just one thing I just wanted to throw in there as we're getting started. And we're going to talk about the creative ways to date. I know it's been hard with no babysitters, no money, sometimes no time, no energy, efforts, all that kind of thing. So we're going to talk about that kind of stuff today. But as we get started, I'm going to have everybody introduce yourselves, and they're going to tell you their name, how long they've been married, and their kids. So why don't we start with Ashley?
Yeah, I'm Ashley Brush, and my husband Brian and I have been married for a little over 12 years, and we have one kiddo, Annie, who is 5.5.
Awesome. Erin?
All right. I'm Erin Stones. I've been married for 17 and a half years to Michael, and he's a Fort Worth police detective. And we have 3 kids. They are 16, 14, and 9.
Awesome.
And I'm Nicole Blaska, and Mark and I have been married for 15 years. We just had our anniversary last week.
Aww.
During COVID, yay. We have 2 children. We have Andrew is 10 and Allie is 8.
Awesome. All right. And my name is Lindy Pinkston. I have been married. I always forget. Conan always remembers, but it's 19 years next month. And I have a 17-year-old, a 15-year-old, and a 12-year-old. And so this is our panel. So I'm just going to start asking a couple questions to you guys. And my first question is, what are some things you've done during COVID that has strengthened your marriage? Maybe it was something intentional you did, or something that you're like, unintentional, but it kind of strengthened your marriage. And y'all can just answer as you want to.
Go ahead. We all want to go. All right. So one thing that we normally would do on the weekends are that we would go on our patio, or we have an upstairs that's more private, and we would have coffee together on Saturday mornings and Sunday mornings. On the weekend, we always did that. And then Mark was home all the time. And so we started doing that every morning. Aww. And just at a certain point, when everybody's, even before breakfast, it's just like, we go do our little thing for a while on our own, and then we come together and have coffee. And a lot of times we just tell the kids, like, there's cereal. If we're wanting to talk longer, there's cereal. You can make waffles at this point now. There's fruit, get a yogurt, and just teaching them. And like, one of our kids knows, Andrew will walk out and he'll be like, pick up on the vibe, and then go back in the house. Mm-hmm. One of our children, the younger one, she doesn't quite totally know. So she'll come out, get a hug, and then we're like, okay, go back in. We're having our mom-dad coffee time. And that's just been really good, just to start the day and say, I'm not doing good today. This is what I have going on today. Mm-hmm. When can Allie practice piano? When, just all the normal things of it. Also just like, how are you doing? And getting to share. So that's been really good.
It's awesome.
It's good.
Mm-hmm. I love it. It's also modeling your kids that your marriage is important. They're not more important than your marriage, and so that you value Mark as much as well as you value them. That's great. Erin, what about you?
I think 2 things that have really strengthened our marriage in this season. One of them kind of was, well, I think they both started just kind of out of necessity. We're living with my parents in the season while we remodel a house. There's 7 people. There's 7 people and 3 dogs in our house, and it just gets like crowded and cooped up, you know? So we started taking walks in the evening just to get out of the house and have some time together. And Michael's neck has been hurting lately, so we haven't gotten to do it in a few weeks, which I really hope it gets better fast because I'd like to do it again. But pretty much every night going for a walk together, and it doesn't have to take that long. The kids are, you know, just chilling and they're fine. I know if you have littles, you might have to stick them in a stroller and take them with you, but just that getting outside time has really helped. And then we have a couple of chairs in the front yard under a big tree, and just sitting out in the chairs, even if we're like each reading a book, you know, but being out of the house and just sitting by each other in the cool of the evening while everything is calm has really been a good connecting spot for us.
Love that. That's great. Ashley, what about you guys?
Yeah, I would say for us, this is maybe not quite as like on the practical level, but I think we've just had to learn to embrace the stillness and the slower pace of life a lot more, and to treasure the gifts that come with that. You know, it's in the beginning when all this hit, it just felt like so much sadness and grieving over all the things that were being canceled and all the things we were missing and all the things we couldn't do. And that was right. And it was good to grieve those things. And we look forward to the day when we can start doing some of those things again. But I also feel like the Lord has been just showing us a lot about like, this is a treasured season that we've never had before. And we're probably, hopefully, never going to have one like it again, where we have this opportunity to just be still and be still together. And so, you know, just treasuring those times of when we get to put Annie down to bed and then go sit on the patio and just talk for however long we want to. You know, it's like that doesn't happen in real life very often pre-COVID, that we had just that sacred space to like, we can just sit and talk as long as we want with no agenda. And then the other thing that is a little bit more practical is just embracing the time to really reconnect in the place of prayer as a couple. That's just been huge for us to carve out intentional time that we don't always have, at least to the extent that we do right now, to pray together on a consistent basis. And so I would just say, you know, if you're not currently praying with your spouse, or if that's not something you're doing on a regular basis, that use this season to, in the stillness and the slower pace of life, to build a set routine of praying together on a consistent basis. Because there's just nothing more powerful that you can do for your marriage or for your children or your family than consistently pressing in together in the place of prayer.
I think that's so great, Ashley. I think we underestimate the side time. The word discipline, people don't like that word discipline sometimes because it feels like it's heavy. But sometimes the fruit that comes from just even connecting over coffee and being intentional to pray over the day and praying over your kids, I just think that is such a key thing. That's something Con and I think in this season, in the mornings, because they just haven't been as rushed, is getting to connect over coffee after we have our time with the Lord and praying about our country, about our kids, about everything going on. And it's been a huge connect. I love all y'all's ideas. I love it that in the midst of being pressed, that God is at work in our marriages. And that there's so many more opportunities, not challenges, but if we look at them as opportunities for us to press in those areas where we've really wanted to see some breakthrough in our families and with our marriages. So before we kind of go into a couple more questions, I want to do a giveaway. And so my first giveaway is going, and it's going to be so fun because this is what you're going to get. You're going to get, let me see if y'all can see it. Can you see it? You're going to get to go to Creamery, which I've never been, but one of my children has been, so I need to go. But I've heard it's really awesome. And you're going to get to go have dessert with your husband. And the first person that was on the chat is the person that's going to get this gift card that Julia is going to email to you. And she's going to let me know who that was. I think I know who that was, but I'm going to wait for the official answer from Julia. So, and in the meantime, too, if you have some ideas of things that you've connected ways with your spouse during COVID that have been real encouraging, put those on the chat, and I'm going to read those in a few minutes. And let's see if we have the winner yet. Christina Jones. Yay! You and Graydon can go eat some yummy ice cream and feed your pregnant little body. I love it. And it's, by the way, this weekend it's going to be like 104. I'm just saying, it's going to be hot. So maybe y'all should plan going this weekend. So before we move on, a couple more questions. I'm just going to read some funny tweets that I found about marriage. Of course, I can share all of them because not all of them were appropriate that I read, but I did find some that were. And, I just think in this season, it's just so good to laugh. I mean, I think some spouses are more prone to laugh together, and the other ones, some of us have to work at it. But however you need to do it, watch a YouTube video, a comedian, tell funny stories. But I just think it's so good right now for us to be laughing. And so we're going to spend a few minutes laughing. Are y'all ready? And Christina says, yay, date night before the baby girls come. My pregnant little body. Yes, your body is little. I've seen it. It's weird. Let's just say how weird it is. All these people that are pregnant and you haven't seen them in months, and they're like, wow, people are going to have babies that we didn't even know were pregnant. I mean, seriously? Or little babies who aren't walking and they're going to be running down the church sidewalk with church. Makes me kind of sad, but I'm not going to be sad. Okay. So some funny tweets. The wife, she wakes up from a nap, kind of dazed, and she's like, how long was I asleep? And the husband says, shh, it's still 2020. Go back to sleep. I thought that was good. So another one was quarantine day number 2, hour 689. I've become very aware of my husband's toenails, and I'd like to be voted off the island now. That's so gross. But let's just say there are things you've noticed being around each other more. Let's just admit it. There's been highs and lows. This is another funny one. Shout out to my wife for always finding me something to do around the house during the quarantine. And I'm like, is that not true? When they're not around, you can't tell them all the chores that they've not been doing or things that need to be fixed. So I thought that was funny. Let's see. As I sit in isolation for hours, planning to keep a safe distance from my family, I hear them outside the door shouting words of encouragement, like my kids saying, make us breakfast. And my wife adding, get out of the bathroom. You aren't sick. Like, come on. No social distancing for the family. Come on, people. Okay. This one's funny. Day 4 of social distancing. My husband just challenged my kids to a tic-tac battle, a.k.a. TikTok. Help us all. So obviously the dad did not realize it was called TikTok. He called it Tic-Tac. That sounds like something I would do. Those of you who know how I get phrases mixed up. Okay, this is last one. What level of quarantine is it when you reuse your wife's empty cereal bowl and spoon for your own cereal because you don't want to dirty another dish?
That has so happened at my house.
Has
really? So happened at my house.
Oh, Ashley is dying. Ashley and Brian would never do that.
No way. Here.
Nicole and Mark would never do that. Connor would totally do that. Totally do that. And obviously the Sones will do that too. Or your teenage children, right? Because they don't want to empty the dishwasher. Okay. Okay. So now we're going to, Nicole, I'm going to ask you, what are some ways you and Mark have connected with the kids still around? You kind of alluded to that you alluded to in the morning times, but like during the days or at night when y'all are trying to connect and you have kids, what are some creative things you guys have done?
Okay. No one calls CPS on me. Okay.
I locked out Natalie from the apartment. Remember that?
That's true. Mark literally bought one of those like indoor cameras off Amazon so that, our kids can call us from the iPad also, but we started leaving them alone for the first time during all this.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I know if you have little kids, you can't do that, but you could buy a camera and put it in a room and go in the other room. So So
Right.
helpful tip for that. So we can talk to them through it even, or they can call us on the iPad. And so that's just been like, because we are pretty high quarantine for health reasons for me. And so we've had to just be creative and go like, okay, we can get out and just go get dinner, like get the dinner and bring it home, or, just where we have a second to breathe. And we've also paid Andrew to babysit. And Allie has gotten paid to babysit our new puppy. They were like, we'll charge you 50 cents an hour. And we were like, sold. So, and so that we could actually and really all it means is that they're having a sleepover together in the same room and watching a movie so that we can then have not have to put everyone to bed for one night. And, that's the hard part of the day for us is we're really tired and just one night where they kind of just pass out to a movie. And again, our kids are older, so you could do that when your kids are asleep. But just really being intentional to say, okay, it's mom, dad night. Here's what you're eating, and even eating in a separate room. It's something, where you feel like you're away from them for a little breather. Let's see what else. Yeah,
great idea, Nicole. I love it. I mean, those who have small kids, the first night you leave your kids by themselves and they survive and you go on a date, it is glorious. I still remember the night in Hawaii. It was like, this is amazing.
So we haven't done a date night where we've left it, but just a quick errand in the day. But we're almost there. We're almost there.
Though. That's a start, And I think even though when you had, I know in Hawaii when we had really young kids and babysitters was just expensive and going out was expensive in Hawaii. And we would go get takeout and then put the kids down and then we'd eat later and watch a movie. It was kind of like a date, at the table in a movie. So there's creative ways. And I love that your kids think of it, they're getting paid 50 cents an hour. Erin, what about you guys? You have 3 kids, all different ages, and you're living with 3 dogs and your parents. So what are some creative ideas?
Yeah, so our house is there's just people in every nook and cranny. So there's not really a place in the house to go that is date worthy in any sense of the word. But we can go outside. So I feel like we have found a lot of connection with going outside. So whether that's been like I said, us going for a walk or sitting outside on the patio, sitting outside in the front yard, or even when we've taken our kids with us, but we go to the park and the kids are playing in the creek and we can sit on a park bench and hold hands and look at each other's faces and connect, that's been really good. So there have been, or we'll go for a walk and they ride their bikes in front of us and we get to just walk and talk. And so there have been lots of times when we've had the kids with us that we've still gotten to have that space to connect. And then the walks in the front yard have been great. And then I think too, just kind of redefining our idea of what a date is, a date doesn't have to be go to dinner and get something fancy, although that's lovely. But for us, just making weekends feel like weekends has been part of kind of having a healthy connection rhythm, whether that means we're going to go and get ice cream or we're going to grab a coffee or we get coffee delivered to us or, any of those things that they're just small and simple, but it's hey, we did something special together to connect together. And our kids are old enough to leave at home, which makes it nice for sure. But yeah, that we've had times even with the kids when we've gotten to connect and just getting that little, like Nicole was saying, just getting that little bit of space where we can either we're outside and so we're not cooped up in the house or we're going to get something special and fun. all of those things are little moments of celebration and connection.
That's good. I know somebody who's ordered like, dessert or food and had it delivered to the house. That's a fun idea. I'm sorry, I do have to comment on Julia P's comment. The first night we get to leave ours by themselves, we'll also get a senior citizen discount. That's not true. That's not true.
You have a lot of babysitters coming up.
You've got a lot of
That's the truth.
Yeah, I love it though. And I love that we're the intentionality and wherever you're at, we were talking about before, we kind of did some listening time before we had this, before you guys all got on to this afternoon. And some of the things we heard were just like, you're not in this by yourselves. We're all in this together. That God wants to release hope and something that Aaron shared, just we all have gone in ruts and gotten out of them. And this has not been, COVID, not for anybody. I think it's not been amazing in every way. There's been ups and there's been downs and there's been things you didn't expect to happen. And both beautiful and messy, right? Our marriages are beautiful and then they're messy. And I think it's good for us just to remember that as we're moving along and that there's hope for us no matter where we're at. No matter if you never had a date night and since you've had a baby and you're like, dude, we haven't even done anything. Do not let the enemy come in and bring shame or discouragement. Just start today. Say, hey, we're going to spend 10 minutes drinking a coffee or a Coke outside the back porch when the kids go to sleep. So start simple and if you need help, I just want you to know, we are here to help you. We're here to pray with you. Your life group is there. We have resources at church. We're so for our marriages thriving, and your marriage looks different than somebody else's. So don't compare it to Ashley's or Aaron's or mine or Nicole's or one of your good friends. Because the enemy will kill the comparison deal. Compare your husband to somebody else's husband, not good, And so Ashley, I wanted to ask you a question. How has self-care or lack of it affected your marriage during this past few months?
Yeah, I can kind of share both sides of that coin because we've experienced the full spectrum since COVID started. So I would say, just in the beginning when this all started, like everyone, we just felt like our whole world got flipped upside down, overnight. And so it was like the stress and the anxiety level just went up very quickly. And I feel like it took us, maybe some of you, it took you not as long, but for us, I feel like it took us a good month, to not feel like we were just stressed and chaotic all the time. And so in that season, that first month or so, we were just not the most pleasant people to be around most of the time. We were just grumpy and we were stressed and things were hard and everything just felt like chaos. And so when we would come together, we were usually butting heads about stuff. We were just being real nitpicky with each other and just weren't connecting very well through the first few weeks of COVID. And I can be a little bit slow about this stuff sometimes. So it took a few weeks for the light bulb to go off for me to say like, oh, wait, the reason I feel this way is because I'm completely empty. I am not being filled up the way that I would normally be filled up. And Brian was feeling the same. And so once we recognized that in ourselves and in each other, we had to just sit down and get real intentional and plan out how are we going to take care of ourselves in this season? Because it doesn't look like it did before. And all the things that we did pre-COVID to fill ourselves up and to keep ourselves emotionally healthy, most of those things we can't do now, or we can't do them the same way. And so for us, we just had to get really creative and be intentional about making a plan for how we were going to keep ourselves filled up. And so some of the big things for us personally were we needed daily connection with Jesus each morning individually. We needed to be able to physically get exercise every day. We both need alone time. I'm an introvert and Brian's an extrovert, but we both need time to ourselves when we are not with other people. And then we need people. We need our friends and our community around us. And again, all those things have to look different. They can't look the same way that they did pre-COVID. That's why we had to be intentional about making a plan for how can we still do these things and find a way to make these things a priority, even in the midst of being at home and being with 24/7, it feels like most days. And so once we were able to do that, and it's not perfect and it's always adjusting and changing, but once we were able to make a plan for those things, it's just been so much better. Like we just feel so much better. We feel so much lighter. And when we come together, there's not that stress and that anxiety and frustration. Like we actually have something to give each other, and we're able to come together at a place of peace and a place of joy, because we're not just running on empty all the time.
Good. Great. I love your testimony. You know, I mean, you know, God, everybody's watching this as part of our church knows that we are real big on taking care of ourselves so that we have something to pour out to people. And especially when you're with your kids, and we did the homeschool stage, and then it kind of summer just kind of like drifted in. It was so strange. And all your creative ideas were already gone because you already used them in May. And then it's like, wait a minute, you know. And we talked about that, you know, last month some, but I just think it's just and so important, like exercise, spending time with the Lord. Those kind of connects. You will be shocked how far they will get you, as far as how you're responding to your spouse or to your children, to your neighbor, to your friends, to everybody. And so I just think that is. I love that. I love that, Ashley. Anybody else, Aaron or Nicole, do y'all have anything to add into that?
Yes. We are big on self-care in our house. And I've had just several health things too. So, and that have been heightened since all of the added stress. I mean, we already had a good level of stress going on before this. And so this has just added a ton more. And the only thing to add on there is, I was thinking about earlier, I go to counseling, and now it's moved to online, and I had to up that to weekly. Again, I had not been going weekly, and so now I'm going weekly. And so I just say, like, if you are needing more support above life group, I have a great life group. I have amazing friends that I stay very, very connected to. But I still, and Mark and I, we talk every day. I still needed more support. So it's kind of cool if even if you have little kids right now, is you can do a lot of it online, which is awesome. So, but yeah, just journaling my feelings so that Mark doesn't have to hear all of them. Because I'm a verbal processor.
That's good. Mark bought you a journal for your anniversary.
Here's a stack. And practicing something I've learned in counseling called containment, where I literally will put whatever issue or stress or anxiety I have, like mentally in a box, and I will put it under the feet of Jesus, and I will just say, I have to function today. It's under your feet, Lord. And just really saying, like, right now I'm okay, because I'm struggling with anxiety, like most people are right now, and saying, like, right now I'm okay. Everything is okay. I don't know XYZ about school and work and how things are going to go, but right now I'm okay. And it is helping me to practice those things so that I am not exploding all of my stuff constantly on everybody, because the explosions are really happening on the inside lately. And so just trying to take care of those things and take care of myself. And just my huge encouragement is just reach out if you're not functioning and get help, because there's no shame. We all need extra support right now.
Awesome. That's so and we're gonna actually practice a kind of form of what Nicole's talking about at the very end of this. We're gonna spend a few minutes just kind of pausing and releasing everyone, specifically our spouses and our marriage to the Father. And really it's just such a great, I love that visual, just a tangible giving it to the Lord and allowing Him to take it from us. We carry a lot of stuff that we're not created to carry.
Yes.
We carry a lot of burdens for people. And sometimes we can make it feel like, oh, the Lord's given me this burden. And he says his yoke is easy and his burden is light. And it's really learning how to walk with people well. In our husbands. I mean, some people listen to this message, your husbands have lost their jobs, or maybe you've lost your job, and it's very stressful. And the Lord is our refuge, Erin, did you have anything else to add on that?
Yeah, I think that our family, our one of the things that we've really had driven home to us in this season is like how much we're a system. And so when there's a particular stress going on in one part of the system, how much it affects all the other parts of the system. So Michael's neck he has a spinal injury, but it really hasn't bothered him a lot in about 2 years. And then it has flared up like with greater vengeance than it has in the last 2 years. And so he's been dealing with the pain from that, but also the treatment and the stress and all of that kind of stuff. And so that's affected all of us. And it's, we've had to really, really work to make sure that those healthy emotional practices and physical practices are in place and happening in the other parts of the system, so that we don't get derailed by that one thing. Or we've had one kid that has really, really struggled with isolation. He's super extroverted, does not handle not being with people well. And so it would be really easy when he is super upset to let that drive the train. But trying to keep the other parts of the train on the tracks so that that thing doesn't derail the train. Not that we don't have empathy for him and what he's going with, or we're not going to practice kindness to him, what he's going through rather, but not letting that derail the whole train and keeping the just the other healthy practices going in the midst of one part of the train kind of being derailed has been super important.
It's good. I love that picture. And I'm going to read a verse here, and then I'm going to read a couple of the comments we have going on. But, when we have struggles with our spouses, specifically, let's talk about that because that's what we're talking about. I just want to remind us, and I'm going to put my reading glasses on so I can see. But this is a good reminder. We all know this, but I just, Ephesians 6 says, finally be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces in the heavenly realms. And I just want to remind us that when we are struggling with our spouse, to tell yourself, he is not the issue. Mark is not the problem. Brian is not the problem. Conan is not the problem. Michael's not the problem. The enemy is out to kill, steal, destroy our marriages. And if we see our spouse as the problem, we will fight with carnal weapons that will not do anything productive. And we have to fight with spiritual weapons. And one of the hugest ways we can do that is pray and to look at ourselves and say, Lord, what do I need to change? I have a relationship that's had some struggles in my family. And a few months ago, I wrote a little chart and I said, okay, if he doesn't change and I don't change, nothing changes. If I change and he doesn't change, something changes. Now, obviously, you want him to change and me to change, and it's all to change, right? But the reality is taking up responsibility of how I can change, how I can be a better communicator with my husband. I know several families, it's been hard with having moms and dads that parent a little different in the same household now. And maybe, you've been the primary disciplinary, and then your husband's given his input, and there's been tension, and to find unity and pray together, and the Lord wants unity in our marriages. And it doesn't mean we have to agree on every aspect, but trying to find that common ground, I think, is so important. And I love a couple eras saying yes. You know, the stigma of counseling that Nicole mentioned. So many times, and I think that's it's getting smaller in our culture. But yes, if you need help, counseling is has helped so many people. I love Sarah Travis talking about or who was it? Yeah, Sarah, they're going to make a fort in their den and watch a movie. I mean, that's a creative idea, you know? Andrea Chapman said they've run out of conversation topics. Yes, I can see that can happen. They bought an uncommon questions for couples on Amazon, and it's been a bunch of fun conversation starters. And I think those are great ideas. And I just love that we're able to talk about self-care in a positive light. And we've all been in seasons where we feel guilty for exercising, or we feel guilty for going on a date night. You know, Anda and Randy Brown, honestly, I've never met a couple that's more consistent with the date night than they are. I mean, they're on family vacay and they go on a date night. And of course they have older kids, but they've done this. I mean, they've created a rhythm in their marriage. And it's become such a huge, it's just something they do. You know, they budget for it. They make the time for it. They plan for it. And just as we talked about, there's creative ways to do that. And those who have little kids, your kids will get older one day. We promise. Right, Erin?
Yes.
You won't be able to leave them longer than 10 minutes, Nicole. I promise. Ashley, Annie will be able to stay by herself one day. Right? We've kind of already alluded to this, but is there anything else that has really made it difficult for your marriage during COVID, like that you weren't expecting? Ashley alluded to it. Does anybody else have anything that you've just been kind of like, yeah, this really caught us off guard as far as it's caused the tension in your marriage?
I think living with my family can cause tension in our marriage. And it's been... So Michael and I, we just drove back from El Paso. We went to see his family. And if any of you have ever driven from El Paso, you know, it's like you drive forever and then you drive forever and then you drive forever and then you're still not there. So on the way back from El Paso, we only had Liam in the car and he was watching a movie and we just had some really good time to talk. And one of the things we started talking about is just reflecting on, like how living with my family has affected us and how we want to choose to do things differently when we're in our own household. And it's not like my family's been like mean or oppressive or anything. They're not like that. But it is, it's harder to pilot your own ship when you're living in someone else's house with their preferences and rules. And so I think for Michael, especially, he doesn't have like a super assertive, dominant personality where he's like, this is the way we're going to do things, you know? And so being that way, he feels less freedom to drive the train when it's not our own house and our own family culture. And so I know in the past, like I would have really, really struggled with that. But I feel like God has given a lot of grace, just a lot of grace to feel out of balance. But let that be okay. Like, just let it be okay that we're a little out of balance in this season and know that it's not forever and that we're going to get to rebalance. But just getting to have that open, like, conversation about it was so good. Just to be like, yeah, it's been kind of funky, but it's okay. We're making it, and God's good, and it's gonna be better than that. So
it's good.
Yeah,
I love that. You know, I think you're gonna have good days, you're gonna have bad days. You know, you know, I can sometimes come home and just depending on what the house looks like, and I'm like, I just can unload, you know, and I'm like, no. You know, I mean, just trying to realize, you know, and this is kind of going into the next question, is many of our husbands are at home working. So my husband, Conan's probably worked at home the last 3 years, but I've been at home more during COVID than I've been at for years, just because my kids are I have kids that are in school age and I work outside the home. And so it is, those of us, anybody on the panel want to talk about just work, your husband's working at home or both of you working. Nicole, no, you don't work and Mark does. And he's there 1 week. He's not 1 week. Aaron, obviously Michael leaves to go to work.
Mhm.
Those different dynamics, because there's people watching this that, they're at home all the time and their husbands are gone and they come back and they want to go out, but yet you're not really supposed to go out. You have to be careful when you go out, and there's limited, it's just so crazy. So what are some things that you have come up or some ways that you guys have dealt with the working in the same house? Ashley and Brian, I know you're both working.
Mhm.
And you have a child at home, so a young child. My kids are a little older. I could say, go ride a bike, go play basketball, whatever.
Mhm.
So what are some suggestions of things you found that have worked?
I think for us, I feel like both of these things kind of go together, your last two questions. One of the things that's been harder for us that we weren't really anticipating is having an only child during COVID.
Mhm.
I know that's not all of us, but anyone that has a single kiddo, I stand with you. My goodness, it is hard to be the sole playmate all the time for months on end. And if you know my daughter, she is super extroverted and all up in everybody's business and likes to be the center of everything. So that's definitely been a huge struggle. Is just like, I need to be away from you. I love you and I think you're wonderful, but I need to be away from you. And then, that coupled with just that tension of Brian is working from home full time. He's also working on an MBA. So he's doing that from home and studying a lot. I'm working part-time from home. In the spring we were homeschooling, and just all those things happening in the same space can be really hard. We've just had a lot of times where there's been a lot of tension or just stepping on each other's toes practically of well, I need that space. Well, we both need the space at the same time, or Annie's being too loud while Brian's trying to study, or, just those sorts of things that can get tense. And so I would say the biggest thing for us is making a plan, and just having a plan, having a schedule, and holding it very lightly, I would say, are the things that we've had to learn how to do. If you know Brian and I, that we are very naturally scheduled, structured, make a plan kind of people. And so that came a little bit more naturally for us. We realized pretty quickly that we need to have a plan for how the week is going to work and who's going to be in what space working and who's going to be where doing school and studying, just all those things. How are we going to map that out for the week? And then being able to talk about it, at the beginning of the week, we do 10 minutes on a Sunday afternoon or something to just kind of look at the week and what do we need to do, who's got a meeting when and where and all those kinds of things. So we can balance it out, but then also holding that very loosely. And just, I feel like in COVID, it's we've just had to reevaluate things very frequently. Every couple of weeks, we have to kind of sit and look and say, okay, is what we've been doing still working? Do we need to adjust? And then just being okay talking about those things, being okay saying, you know what, the way you're doing that is just not working for me. It is not life-giving and I need you to, let's find something else different. Or I'm getting way too much anytime and I need you to take on a little bit more, or vice versa, him having the freedom to say those things too. And so just holding things loosely, but trying to have a plan for how you're going to work it all out, I think has been really helpful for us.
It's so good. I love that we're all trying to be flexible. But at the same time, I do think, doing the schedule thing is very helpful. It's a little different for us. Conan was already working at home, so he has his little routine. But, me trying to be sensitive to him when he's on a conference call to Hawaii, when the boys are being loud, or I'm in a Zoom call. And I think what helped us some too, Ashley, when the kids were in school, was I made a schedule of when I could help Jonathan, when I need to be in a Zoom call. So I feel very peaceful when I have a schedule. Some people are not that way. It brings me so much peace, even if I get off of it, just to know that there's some intentionality with, and I can imagine spacing in a house. When you're trying to work, and I've thought about this a lot for people who only have one child in this season. Honestly, the spiritual muscles that God has been growing in y'all is going to be beautiful. Honestly, because those of us who have siblings, they can play together. Even if they don't get along, they finally give it up and okay, well, you're the all I have right now. You're the only option for a human playmate. And so I I appreciate your vulnerability in that. That's a big deal that many of us don't think about. Anybody else, Aaron or Nicole, want to share on that? Working husbands?
I mean, for us, since we're like hybrid, we have a schedule, and some days we do it and some days we don't, just depending on what's going on. But I mean, trying to manage the emotions of everybody when it flip-flops so much is like, because we all get really sad when Mark goes back into the office, but then it's also nice to have some like normal, and it's just, I don't know. So, I spend a lot of time just giving space for everyone to share how they're feeling. And how are you feeling? How is this? You seem a little sad today, because we're all over. We've all struggled with depression. All of us have in some form. And so just keeping a close eye on that and how every person is doing, because we're all over. But with Mark being home, there's a lot of spaces that just have to be ready for him to like fly to really quick, depending on what's going on. Thank the Lord he has a laptop and he can move it all, but it's challenging.
Good.
Yeah, it's challenging.
Well, I think this has just been so encouraging, guys. And is there anything else anybody wants to share? We're going to kind of transition. We're going to do another giveaway. I've been trying to read some of these comments. Andrea Chapman, my daughter started to create imaginary friends to make up for not being able to see her little buddies. Oh,
Bailey.
Christine is suddenly having to work from home. From home. Husband has been quite a shock over here. And I think about people who are living in apartments where there's not much space to be creative with your time. And a couple of you have talked about your kids and their emotional state. So next month, August, the first Tuesday in August, Laura Albright and Holly Imler and probably somebody else are going to be on a panel to talk about how we can be meeting the emotional needs of our kids right now, because they'll be some of them about to start school back. And we just don't realize some of the things that their little minds have been pondering and hearing on the news or hearing in conversations. They probably heard way more than you think they have. They probably have way more opinions than you know they have, or feelings, and just some ways that we can be proactive to help them start seeing people more. And I know some families have been seeing people more than others, have been on vacations with family members or that kind of thing. But as far as big groups and as far as all the stuff that's going on in our world, it's a lot for kids right now. And so they're going to come and give us, they're both counselors, and so they're going to give us some practical things that we can be doing with our kids. And Nicole, it reminded me when you said that, just about asking our kids how you're doing, and asking our husbands. It's like, when's the last time I sat down with Con and said, hey, how are you doing? Like,
Something on that. I did that this morning.
Good for you.
It's not good. I'm like, so before I do the marriage panel, how would you say we're doing? He's like, I'm feeling super hopeless today. I'm like,
oh, you're right.
Okay. It's okay. We're going to then go. Okay, what do we need to do?
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
So that's that way. You're not alone.
Exactly. And that's what our heart has been for this panel, is that we are all just connecting. And before we're going to pray, and then I'm going to lead us in like a guided meditation just to kind of release whatever is heavy on your heart about your marriage. But we cannot have a marriage panel without mentioning intimacy. I know it's a subject that can be sensitive to wherever we're at with that. But guys, just encouraging as we're making creative time to connect with our husbands emotionally, sexually. Intimacy is just so important right now. And like my kids, I have older kids, are going to bed late. I mean, later than most of your kids are, probably, maybe not Aaron's, but so we're having to be creative. So I'm like, early morning, that's their kid. My kids sleep until you wake them up. They are not getting up early, but I know some of yours are. But I'm just trying to find times where you're connecting with your husband physically is just so key right now. And I just had to say that. I don't know if anybody on the panel has anything to say with that. And I know there's couples that there's y'all are having struggles. But my encouragement is to get help if you need help.
Mm-hmm.
Reach out to someone if you need to reach out, because not connecting physically with your husband is just, it's not what we want to be doing. Even with all the pressures of life, I find when Con and I connect,
Mm-hmm.
he's in a better mood physically. I mean, emotionally, it's really healthy. And I don't know if anybody else wants to mention anything before we kind of wrap up and pray about intimacy.
I think for me, I've had to just practice self-discipline in the area of intentionality there, you know, like, because if I just were going with what my general feelings and body are saying, by the end of the day, I'm just kind of like tired and bleh, and kind of don't want to talk to anybody and would rather hide in my room and read a book. Honestly.
Yeah.
But I know that it's a blessing to my husband for me to be intentional in saying, I want to spend this time with you, you know? And so there are times when I just don't have it in me to do that, honestly. But then there are times when, like, you know what? I can do that right now. I can express my desire to spend special time with my husband in order for him to know that even though this season has a whole lot of blah in it, it also is still marked by love and connection to him. And so it's required an extra measure of self-discipline to be intentional in that way.
That's great. Well said, Erin. Anybody else?
I'm going to have to say, keep your noise machines, because you can put noise machines on during the day and put children in rooms with movies. I mean, it's the same thing. It's kind of like when you like, our kids aren't super little anymore, but it's like when you had the baby, when in the baby stage, just remembering like what you did during that stage to be able to create time for yourselves. And so just having to like get outside of your comfort zone in the normal times you would normally do things, and make it a priority. It's a big deal. Yeah.
Katie Milgren says intimacy during the kids' TV showtime is totally okay too. Yes. And someone else that mentioned earlier about, dates don't have to be date nights, date mornings, date afternoons, and so I think that's good. So we're going to kind of wind up. We're going to pray, and then I'm going to end us with just kind of a prayer of meditation for our husbands, just kind of releasing them to the Lord. And so first, Nicole's going to pray for just healthy communication within our marriages, and then Erin's going to hit on just easy connects with our spouses. That God should give us creativity. That we'll just have easy connects with our spouses. And then Ashley's just going to pray for laughter and unity with our spouses. So if there's any area where there's just that tension, there's just not unity, that God would just come and just soften your heart, soften your husband's heart, so you guys can get on unity, on the same page. And I'm going to kind of end with a prayer of release as we kind of end our time together. So why don't we start? We'll go Nicole, Erin, Ashley, and then me.
Yeah, Lord, just thank you for this time right now. Lord, thank you just that you highly value our marriages, God, and that you see us, Lord, and that you see where we're at and where we're hurting and where we're thriving, and that you are there to bring what we need, God, to help us, that there's no situation that is that's too much or too far, or that you can't help bring creativity and healing to. And so, Lord, we just acknowledge that you have such a high value for us being okay and our marriages being healthy, Lord. And I just lift up our communication, God. And I pray for our mouths to be filled with encouragement and grace and love, God, that you would create space, and no matter what season we're in, for us to be able to hear each other, God, to be able to be vulnerable with each other. And so just especially those with younger kids, God, we just pray just for supernatural time for everyone to be able to have space to communicate with their spouses, Lord, and anything you're wanting to do in our marriages in this time, God. We ask that nothing would stop your plans and your purposes for our marriages in this season, Lord, that no amount of stress and isolation, and we just bind those things up, God, and we just ask for peaceful communication, grace-filled communication, and things that we need to repent of, God. We ask for that in our communication, Lord, just soft hearts with each other.
Mm-hmm. And God, we just pray that you would facilitate and make way for great connection with our spouses. We pray for fun, creative, easy connections, just conversations that just bring up out of nowhere, just and lead into great connections. As we're driving in the car, as we're putting kids to bed, as we're eating dinner, as we're just doing life together, Lord, would you connect our hearts deeply with our spouses, and just pray for opportunities to laugh together, opportunities to share, opportunities to be honest about what's going in our hearts, opportunities to encourage and speak life to one another, speak thanksgiving and appreciation to one another. And Lord, we just ask that you would just pour out an extra measure of grace for those connections, little windows of time for those little morning coffee dates, or those afternoon ice cream dates, or sitting out on the patio, taking a walk, just things that breathe fresh life and renewal into our marriages, things that bring energy and space and room to breathe into us. Lord, would you just bless our marriages with those moments?
Yeah, Jesus, we just thank you that you created our marriages to thrive. God, I thank you that for every wife represented in this group today, Jesus, that you have created a life-giving and thriving marriage, Lord, that is your heart for each marriage represented here. And so, Jesus, I just pray that you would just come and meet each of us where we are. God, some of us are coming today with marriages that are fun and life-giving and joyful, and some of us are coming from places where marriage is hard right now, and it's maybe not super life-giving, and there's places where encouragement needs to break in. And so, Jesus, we just pray that wherever we're at on that spectrum, would you just come, God, and fill us with fresh joy. God, would you give us fresh joy as we connect with our husbands, Jesus? Would you give us opportunities to laugh together, to just be light and easy together, Lord, opportunities to connect where there's not heaviness and hard things that need to be talked about, Lord, but that there would be so many opportunities just to laugh and enjoy each other's presence. God, give us grace to enjoy our husbands, Lord, to work past the things that are maybe hard right now, Lord, and just to find enjoyment in each other, Lord, opportunities to connect and just laugh and just date again and have fun. No matter how long we've been married, Lord, just be able to have fun, just dating and connecting with our husbands this week. Thank you, Jesus, if that's your heart. And Lord, we do just pray for restoration and breakthrough anywhere in marriages, Lord, where it's hard and where there's place that needs breakthrough. Jesus, would you just come? God, thank you that you are able to restore and redeem and bring the breakthrough in every situation, in every marriage that's represented, God. And we just trust you to do that. And Lord, we just want to look to you, Jesus, as we love our husbands, as we love our families, and as we press in marriage right now in this season. God, would you just come? We want to keep our eyes on you and just hear you for how we can love our husbands well in this season, and how we can enjoy them in this season, and how we can bless them and serve them.
Amen, Lord. We just want everybody just lift their hands up. Lord, we just release our husbands to you. We give our husbands to you. We give those situations in our marriage that we really want to see change. Lord, we release that situation, that circumstance in our marriage to you. We thank you, Father, that you hear our hearts, that you're for our marriage, that you're for us, you're for our marriage thriving. So we just ask you, Father, during our day, as we sense anxiety or fear or frustration or anger come up concerning our marriage, that we just release it to you And with thanksgiving, Father, we ask you to fill our hearts with thanksgiving for our spouse, for our husbands. We love you, Jesus. We thank you for this time. Thank you for our husbands. Amen.
Amen.
All right, we are 3 or 4 minutes over, so I'm so sorry, but we have one more giveaway. So very quickly, if you're on the chat thingy, chat, tell me one of your favorite foods that you've eaten, either takeout or cooked, or that your family likes this last COVID season. So since March, what is become one of your favorite meals? And whoever responds, I'm going to draw a number. Whatever what person that number is going to win. So number 3. So if you'll get on the chat and tell us one of your favorite takeouts or favorite things that you've discovered that your family loves, and whoever responds, the third person is going to win a gift card. You want the gift card. And then also one more resource. Laura Albright, our pastoral care pastor over pastoral care, she recommends this Symbis. It has a bunch of different articles, and I looked through it. It looks like really good stuff. And so look at all these responses. Anyway, so I've also will include this in the women's email I send out this week, but there's lots of articles on emotional health, on communication, on anger. You may want to check that out if you want some more resources. Okay, so we think, now we're seeing who's really wanting to eat out or ice cream. Takeout, Samson's, that sounds good. Anything takeout, Taste of Asia, yes. Hot Dogs and Mac, yes. Thai Select, one of my faves. Saturday Night Grilled Hamburgers, yes. We do that like often. My kids love hamburgers. Stir fry. Okay, so Julia, who is our third? Sarah Trapp is number 3. Sarah, we'll send you this. Julia's going to send you an email with a link for that. And so we're going to say goodbye to you guys. It's been so much fun. We love you. Look forward to next month. It's going to be a great one. And thanks for our panel. Thanks, everybody. Bye. Love you guys. Oh, well, Faith, they even did sushi. Hey,
Ooh.
Teach your kids to do sushi. That's what we do. Rosas. I'm getting hungry just reading all these places. All right. Love you guys.
Awesome.